Hi, welcome in or welcome back to Sew Chill Sewing Studio. I'm Penny, and this is part 3 of a 4-part series. We're making a patriotic quilt. Finally getting to it. I know I'm late to the party. It just is what it is. We had a crazy year, but here we are, and I chose the Fabric Cafe fireworks pattern, and I'm loving it so much, and I hope you are too. So in part 1, we pieced all the little pieces in here, cut it out, pieced it, put the quilt top together. In the second video, we quilted. So you're going to want to go back and watch 1 and 2, because now in this video, which is part 3, I'm going to trim off my sides, and then we're going to do some machine embroidery, a little special touch, and then I'm going to show you how I like to bind. I know there's a million different ways to bind, and I've tried so many, and I always go back to this one way of binding. There's no hand stitching. I'm not a hand stitch girl. I'm just not. I'm just completely honest there. So we're going to go ahead and machine bind, and then that will be finished. The quilt will be all done, and I'm so excited. And then in part 4, you're going to want to stay tuned to part 4, because I'm going to show you how much everything costs. A lot of people don't value the quilt when they receive it as a gift. They're like, oh, this is really nice. You know, I could probably go to Target and get one for $89. Well, I want to just break that down in detail of how much everything does cost. So maybe your friend will realize that, or your mom will. My mom realizes it. She's a quilter, so she knows, and I value everything she gives me. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be so important. But let's get started with getting this all trimmed up. So there's several different ways you can do this. One is just to go ahead, and if you feel like it's straight, which really this one is, you can just go ahead and use scissors and cut along the side. That's a super easy way. The other way, this is my preferred method, and I kind of do it in stages, is I like to square it off from like a part that's inside, not out here. I'm not exactly sure if this is straight. So I'm going to take my quilting ruler, and I'm just going to line up one of these lines just right along this stitching line. And then I'm going to just kind of pull it over, because we're going to trim off. This is not even, because once I stitched everything down, it does shift. It just does. So we're going to go ahead and square off the corners, just one strip at a time. So we'll go ahead and start right here and go all the way down. All righty, we'll just throw that aside. Okay, so there's that side. Now we're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to line my stitching line right up with one of the lines on the ruler, and just get as close to that edge as I can. And then I'm just going to come over and just go as far as I can, and then I can just kind of cut over. So I'm just going to get rid of that piece right there. Now let's do the same thing with the other corner. We're just going to do the corners right now. So we're just going to flip this around. And you'll see I do have my cutting mat. I'm in my kitchen. I just thought it would be a little bit easier. I've got this really nice island. I could have used my table, but again, put your mat down. All right, so we're going to do the same thing here. And I'm going to, on this side, I'm going to try to line that up to where I was. And I'm just squaring this off. If I don't get all the way down, I will in a minute. All right, we're going to go ahead and trim that piece off. And now we're going to come in here and do the same thing. We're going to find a line that's going to go right along that stitching line just to square it up. I think that's going to be good. All right, so let's go ahead. And I'm just going to go off. We're going to get the centers in a moment, but we're going to do this with all 4 corners. You can see I've got this nice edge right here. It's perfect for binding. Now, I don't typically do anything, I don't stitch, I don't serge. You can if you feel comfortable doing that. I don't find I have an issue with just sewing the binding on. So here you can see I'm going to kind of come from the edge here. I don't like to cut off too much. And you can see it's just like a 1/16 of an inch, an 1/8 of an inch. All right. Now we're going to come along with this side. And I'm going to line it up with my stitching line, not the outside line. I'm assuming the outside line is a bit crooked, which it is. So we're going to use the line here that we're going to see, and the binding will match up nicely. All right, so there's 3 corners. We've got 1 more, and then we'll come back and do the center. Now, when I was starting quilting, I thought, oh, I have to do this whole side. Turns out you don't. You can do it in sections, which I think works a little bit better. All right. Get this piece cut off. You can see I've got a little bit left right there. That's going to go in a minute. We're just doing this in sections. Just want it as straight as I can get it. I mean, it's fabric. It could get off by an 1/8 of an inch. Please do not stress over that. Now I might want to pull this out maybe another 1/4 of an inch. Let's see. I'm just running my finger along that line. That looks good, and you can see I am not going to trim off that much excess here, which is the goal. Okay, so my corners are all done. Now we've got this little piece in the center, and we're just going to bring this back to the cutting table and line up both edges right here and just trim that off. And voila, there we go. This one little thread just doesn't want to let go. So here we've got a straight edge, we've got our 90-degree angle. Now let's do that on the other side. We'll do the short side first. So we'll just flip it over. So you can see I'm doing this in sections. Really, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 12 different cuts on the same quilt. And if it was a larger quilt, you would probably want to do it just a little bit more if you don't have the room. All right, so you can see how nicely this looks right now. Let's see, did I do the other side? Now we're ready to do the long side. I do have a 36-inch mat, so that helps a lot. If you don't, just do it in pieces, because this is only 24 inches. So I am going to go ahead and just do this in a couple more sections. Now you can take it here and then move your ruler up and stay along that same line. And that looks super good right there. I love that. And if I want to, which I probably will, I'll take my 505 spray and then just spray along there to hold those ends down. So let's flip it over. This is our last side. And I'm just kind of holding it with my hip here. And we're just going to do the same thing and just get that trimmed off. Blade, I'm going to keep my blade down and then just move this up so it matches with the other side. And I missed a piece, so I'll just come down here and grab it. All right. So that's all it took to get this all trimmed up. And now we're ready to put the binding on. We could put the binding on. I think we'll do the binding next, and then we'll do the bonus. So here is my binding fabric. I only needed about, well, not quite a half a yard. And we're going to do the math here in a minute. But I just thought this would be so pretty on the end. And like I said before, if you watched my last video, there was a lady at Quilt Club that I go to here locally. She made the most gorgeous quilt I've ever seen. It was not just as simple. Now this, I know I'm not discounting this quilt at all. It had, I bet she spent a year or more on this. It was so detailed. She was obviously a master quilter. And she put this gold, she had like a red, white, and blue quilt, and she put the gold on it. And I said, oh my gosh, that is gorgeous. Why did you do that? Why did you pick gold and not like one of the colors in the quilt? And what she told me was she observed the flags in Washington, D.C. and noticed that there is gold tassels hanging off of it. And in this quilt, I do have a little metallic gold just outlining some of the flowers. So I went to Hobby Lobby, which was the first place. I thought, well, if I don't find it there, I'll find it at my local quilt shop. And I found this gorgeous, it's like a heathered kind of, it's got a little bit of texture to it. And I just thought that's going to be just the perfect trim. So the first thing that we need to do before we cut into this is we have to measure. So we need to measure. So I've got this. I could measure it on here, but I think this will be a little bit easier. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and fold it in half just to make it simpler for my board here. All righty. So we're going to measure across. The first thing we're going to do is measure across. And this is 42 inches wide. So I'm going to do 42 and 42 because I have two sides here. I have the top and the bottom. So I'm already at 84 inches. All righty, so let's flip this around. And remember, we're going to have to take this times 4 because I have it cut in half, folded in half. And this is about 32 and a half. So we're going to take 33 times 4, so that's 12, 13, that's 132 inches. We're going to add to the 84 inches of the top. So we've got 6, 11, 216 inches all the way around. Now we need extra for when we're adding the binding, and then when we come around and we're putting in the rest, and we're tying in the rest of the binding that we just stitched into the beginning. I like to add 10 inches, so we need 226 inches. That's how much binding we need to go all the way around. Now, we don't have 216-inch fabric. We have, let's see what this one is. Let's go ahead and take the receipt off of it. I find it funny they still do this. I worked at a fabric store years ago and we kind of did that, and it's still around. Okay, so we're not going to count the selvages. And I'm just going to see how much I have here. I have 21, so I have 42. That's pretty standard. So we have our width of fabric from folded to the selvage is 42 inches. And I'll go ahead and put all of the calculations here on the side. Now we have to figure out how wide we want our binding. I do 2.5 inches. It's pretty standard. Some people like to do 2.25, 2 3/4. That's your preference. Mine is 2.5. All right, so we're going to take the 226 inches is what we need. We're going to divide it by the width of fabric. So 226 divided by 42 inches, and that comes up with 5.38. Now, that's just a little too technical for me, so I'm going to round that up to 6. So what that means is I'm going to need 6 strips that are 2.5 inches wide by width of fabric. So I'm going to take the 6 times 2.5, and I need 15 inches of fabric. I went ahead and gave myself a little room, and I got a half a yard, which is 18 inches. So I need 6 strips, and so I'm just going to start at the one end, and it looks like it's pretty well. If it's not even, we can go ahead and square it up. Let's square up this side. And this is why you want to allow a little bit extra, just so you have the room to square it up. So I'm going to flip it over. I need 6 2.5 inch width of fabric strips. So there's one. Just lay that over here. There's 1. 2. 3. You'll notice I'm not putting this on the bias. There's no need because there's no curves. Now, if my quilt was curvy, I would definitely want to do it on the bias, and that's a whole different method of cutting out your binding. That might be in another video. All right, how many do I have here? I have 3. I just have 3 more to go. And then, so if you're wondering what this fabric is, it says linen texture. It's 100% cotton. I did get it at Hobby Lobby along the wall, you know, where they have a ton of various quilting fabrics. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5. And you'll see I didn't have much left. Just like 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches. I'll measure it in just a second. So I have a little over 1.5 inches. So here is our 6 strips. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now I will, take my scissors and I'll just go ahead and cut off the selvages. I don't want that to show in my quilt. And on the other selvage, do it just to the right of all of those dots. That's just where they had it on the machine. And we just don't need it on the quilt. So we're going to go ahead and cut all of those down. Easier to see the dots on the back side. All right, so we're going to do that for all of them. And remember, that's not included in our measurements. I excluded that. All righty, almost done, half done. I could have done this in the beginning and just cut off the selvages. That probably would have been simpler. I didn't do that. So since there's only 6 here for this size quilt, it doesn't take that long. All right, last one. All right, so here's all the selvage trash there, and I've got all 6 strips. So next, let's go to the sewing machine and I'll show you how I like to put all of these together. So it's one long strip, and then I fold it in half, iron that down really well, and then we're ready to add it to the quilt. And that's the final touch. It could be the final touch, but we're also going to add a little bonus item at the end, which is that machine embroidery piece. So stay tuned. All right, so here's all of our strips that we need to make into one piece. So take your first strip, just lay it out horizontally, just pick up another piece, and we are going to do it this way. So you have a 90-degree angle. And now what we're going to do is we're going to stitch from here down to this corner. And it's okay if there's a little bit right there. And I'm going to go ahead and draw a line. That's going to be our stitching line. Now you can eyeball it if you want. I usually start out this way and then I start eyeballing it. But I wanted you to see what my stitching line is. So that's my stitching line. I'm going to stitch from this corner to this corner, just making sure that we're lined up here at the top, and we're just going to go down to the edge of this fabric. Now, if you wanted to take it all the way in, you certainly can. You can even pin it or clip it. We can go ahead and just pin it just so it doesn't move. Now, you can go ahead and do this with all of them, but I want to show you, I'm going to go ahead and run this along that stitching line. So once that's stitched, we're going to trim this off, and then you can see we've got the seam evenly distributed. So, you know, we won't have this and this at the same place. Now, if you went ahead and stitched this other way, which is fine, if you want to do that, that makes sense in your brain, go ahead. You are going to have just a slightly more bulk. And so that's why I like to do it on the diagonal. And I'm going to go ahead and stitch that down, and then go ahead and put the right side up. And then we're going to take the other strip and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go corner to corner and stitch that and keep going until all of these 6 pieces are into one piece. So let's go into the sewing machine and put 6 strips into one. All right, so I just have my regular stitch length here. Didn't do anything fancy with my machine, and I'm just going to go ahead and go corner to corner. Go ahead and back stitch just to strengthen that. All right, let's take that off. And I'm just going to go all the way down to this corner right here. All right, so here we go. We're going to trim this off in a minute, and then we're going to take it to the ironing board and go ahead and iron that down so it's all flat. But you see, we just extended this strip, and now let's go to the end of this new strip, and we're just going to keep sewing. All right, you can see I put 6 strips. I sewed all of them together, and now I have, what, 226 inches at least of this strip of binding. So the next thing I'm going to do, I am going to add some water to my iron so I can get some steam. I'm going to cut off at 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to cut off these little edges here on all of them, and then we're going to fold it in half, and I'm going to iron it down really good, and then we will have one long continuous binding strip. So we're going to go ahead and just trim these pieces off about 1/4 of an inch, just like we normally would. Let's go find our next one. We just don't want that bulk in our seam, so we're just getting rid of it. We have all of our seams trimmed. Now, what I like to do, now you can either just go ahead and iron everything to one side, but you're getting more bulk. So I do like to I take the time and I open up my seams, and I just kind of reduce that bulk because I'm going to put it over a quilted sandwich anyway. So let's just go ahead and reduce the bulk as much as we can. There's not that many, it won't take that long. Just going to open up that seam. Now you could finger press it. I just like to give it a good press so I know it's open and I don't have anything to fight with later on. So we're going to do that to all of them. All right, that's it. Next, we're going to take this big long strip and we are just going to fold it in half, just like that. I like a good sturdy piece of binding on my quilts. Some people just will do a single. To me, it's just not enough. So I do take the time and I fold it over. It takes a little more fabric, but you know, that's okay in my book. I like the end result, and that's what I'm going for. I just give it a good press so it is folded down really nicely. All right, now I'm just going to keep doing that. Just going to bring down my next part and just fold it and press. Just fold it in half, super simple. So here is our seam, and this is why I do it at a diagonal. So when you fold it in half, you have distributed those seams. So it does relieve a lot of bulk, which we just don't need in this part of the process. We're bulky already, and that helps. So it's a little thing, but it really does help, I think, anyway. So there's the first strip, and I'm just going to continue ironing until I have it all ironed in half. All right, so I have all of my binding, and usually I just kind of loosely just roll it up in my hand until it's in one little circle here. I find it's just a little bit easier. I can just kind of drop it in my lap and stitch as I go. Or what we can do is you can go ahead and clip it all the way around. I don't typically do that on this step. I just find it's easier just to have my quilt under my sewing machine and add the binding as I go. So I am going to go ahead and get this, it gets all twisted. This is why you just kind of want to get it in some sort of organized fashion. So because you don't want to put it on twisted. So you're going to see we've got this little roll of binding. Some people use like a uh, bath tissue roll. That could work, or paper towel, I think sounds a little cleaner. All right, so we've got this right here, but before I go any further, I do want to open this up and fold it down a quarter or a 45-degree angle. Before we head over to the sewing machine, I am going to fold this one end down 45 degrees, just like that. And I am going to trim, we're reducing as much bulk as we can. So I'm going to trim off some of that bulk. So that when we start stitching, and you'll see in a moment how I'm going to do this, we don't have this extra layer of fabric that could be folded. We've eliminated that. We're going to go ahead and press that down so it's good and solid. And now we're ready to add the binding to our quilt. This is the final piece. Now, you don't have to machine embroider like I'm going to. You can skip that completely. But we're going to finish it. We're going to finish it. And so here's our quilt. And the way I like to do it is I start from the back and go to the front. Not a lot of people do that. In most of the quilting world, it's you start from the front and you go to the back and then you hand stitch. Well, remember, I don't hand stitch. I just don't. It's not my thing. But I think it still turns out wonderfully. Now you can start wherever you want. I think I'm just going to go ahead and start either this side or the bottom. I think I'll do the side. Now, a lot of people, my mom included, she starts here, but she's a hand sewer. And so she would start here and then flip it around to the back and hand stitch it on the back. I kind of like the top stitching method. I just like the way it looks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this around and I'm going to start, let's see, kind of like my end to be towards the bottom. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to start, it's actually my bottom left corner if I'm looking at the quilt. And I am going to, I do start with pinning just a little bit. I'm coming up about a foot here. You can do it any way you want to. I'm going to bring over some pins. And what I do is I open this up and I'm going to stitch from here down to about here. That's going to be my first stitch. Then I'm going to cut my threads, and you see how I'm just making my sandwich. This is such a soft quilt. I just love it. So I'm going to stitch from here to about here, and then I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to fold this over, and then I'm going to come back and start. So I've stitched to here. Once I've folded it over, let's get the pins out of the way. I'm going to fold it over and then I'm going to start stitching from here down to the corner. And that's how I'm going to get started. All right, so I just have everything set to 2.5-inch stitch length, just normal. You can go lower if you want. I'm going to be doing a 1/4 inch seam allowance, which is on the right side of this toe. So just kind of measure however you have your machine set up. I will do a back stitch right here, and I'm just going to go ahead and stitch through those layers. When you stop, go ahead and put your needle down. And remember, I'm only going to here. Just kind of make sure you got all your layers. You don't have to go quickly on this one. Just take your time. All right, this is why I made my mark. Just so I know where I am. Okay, so I'm going to get to that mark and I'm going to back stitch. All right, so that was about to here. Now we're going to take it out. We'll go ahead and clip our threads. Just clip our threads as we go. Now we're going to fold this over and we're going to come back to where we finished stitching, and we're going to start stitching from there. We're going to come down to this corner and I will zoom in really well so you can see what I'm doing on that corner. So we're going to go ahead and overlap some stitches. And I am constantly just rearranging, clipping threads all the way down here because I didn't clip my back, which I probably should just go back and do that all at once. So I'm coming down here to the end. All right, so here I am at the end, or close to the end. Now I'm not going to stitch all the way off. Here's my end. I'm going to come up 1/4 inch, and then I'm going to come down at an angle. So I'm going to stitch all the way down, stop, kind of pivot, and then I'm going to go 45-degree angle to the very corner tip here. One more. Okay, so I'm 1/4 inch away. I'm going to lift up my presser foot with my needle down, and I am going to pivot so that the corner of my quilt is facing me. So I've pivoted a 45-degree angle, and I'm just going to go ahead and stitch right off. I might back stitch once and then clip my threads so that we have, it looks like we go straight, and then we have this little 45-degree angle. I moved the camera to give you a better angle. So as we were stitching this way, we went all the way down. Well, now what we want to do is flip up our binding so it is the same as our side that we're going to stitch. I do like to pin this down. I just feel like it's a little more secure, and so I pin the side just like that. So it's going to be like this. And then I'm going to bring this down so my folded edge goes right along my edge of my quilt. And I always have things to snip. And then I'm going to pin that as well. So now I'm going to come over to this side and I'm going to stitch 1/4 inch down this side. Go ahead and back stitch so you secure that corner. And now I can take out both of my pins and just keep going. All right, so here we are at the corner again. And I do like to mark it. I think it just kind of helps me visualize. This is where I should end up. So I'm going to want to do, something like that. Hope you can see that. Got this 45-degree angle and then coming down with my 1/4 of an inch. Alrighty, now I'm going to lift up my presser foot. My needle is down, and I'm going to pivot this around all the layers until this corner tip is facing me. And then I'm going to set that down and then just stitch that 45-degree angle and then snip the thread. Get those threads out of there. All right, so we're going to go ahead and pivot this around. And remember, we came down this way. We're going to just bring this up so it looks like it's just one continuous spot. Got my 2 pins. I'm going to pin the side of this down. And then I'm going to pull down the long strip so it's all sandwiched together. So it all goes like that. You've got a folded edge here, and you've got the raw edges meeting the raw edges. And I'm going to go ahead and I just pin twice. I just like how it holds it for me. It just gives me an extra pair of hands. And then I'm going to bring this down to a 1/4 of an inch. It is a lot of thickness, so go ahead and go slow through there. And then I'm going to pull my pins out and I'm going to continue sewing down this side. All right, so remember where I left off or when I started and I had this piece that I only stitched down half. Now it's going to make sense. So bring your piece down and you're going to want to come about an inch out. And let's go ahead and then just cut that at a 45-degree angle. And we're just going to, this is our discard. We did not need this amount. So we're going to go ahead and tuck that in just like that. I kind of pull it a little taut And we just want it to all lay flat through here. All right, so I do like to pin this from that very corner in. So we have a little bit of overlap. So now we're going to go ahead and stitch this down through here so we catch all of those layers, and we're going to go to this area right here where we started stitching in the very beginning. Now we've got it stitched down to the back side. Go ahead and clip our threads. And so we want to, bring it around to this side and top stitch it down. So what I like to do is I go ahead and just kind of run my hands up through there, and then I'm going to take my iron and iron that flat. And what I want is my stitching or is my quilt to stay flat. I don't want to turn this under at all. What's turning is the binding. And I go in the little corner and I just kind of iron that. Sorry if the table moves. It's not as sturdy as I thought it was going to be. So I do this all the way around. Just get it good and flat. Your iron really is your friend in quilting. It just gives that extra professional touch. So don't skip ironing, at least in my opinion. So remember, this is the back side. This is the front side. So I'm working back to front. This is just my preferred method. You can do the other way if you want. There's a bajillion different videos on YouTube that give you their opinion on what works for them. That's great. I've learned a lot, and I ended up kind of combining a few. All right. I think today is the day I'm going to get a regular size ironing board for my studio. So I'm very fortunate. I have 2 sewing rooms in my house. I have one in the basement. It's just not as pretty, and my husband is doing a lot of music down there, so I just converted a bedroom into my filming studio, and I really love it up here. I can see outside. It's got really good light, whereas the basement, it's all fluorescent lighting. All right, so we're just coming down the side here. And I'm just folding this upwards. Just giving it a good press. I did go ahead and change out my thread. I'm going to be top stitching in the gold, but I'm going to leave my bobbin as the white because it's fine if it overlaps, but chances are it's going to be in the flag fabric, and you really won't see it that much unless you're looking. Because here's the quilting, and it's hard to see that as well. All right, so we're going to get into this corner. I just take my tip into that corner. When we flip it over, I'll show you how we're going to miter that. All right, now we're going to do this. We're going to go down this side. Just like that. So I did order a new sewing machine this week. My husband gifted me a sewing machine for my birthday, which is coming up in a few weeks. And I went for the Juki TL18. It's like everybody's got the 20 or the 2000 and the 2010. I got the 18. It was the top of the line on the TL series, and I am so excited. I'm really excited to do some free motion quilting. I went ahead and got the table. I bought it from Juki Junkies. They had such good reviews. I could have purchased it from Amazon, and that was another option, really, if I wanted it quicker, but I don't know. I just wanted to support Juki Junkies, and I've watched a lot of their videos and was just really impressed with how they service, how they take care of you. And I wasn't sure if Amazon had all of the accessories that they do at Juki Junkies, so I went ahead and got it from Juki Junkies. There's a gal I like to watch. Her name is Miriam, and she has Stitch Obsessed, and she was the one that kind of turned me on to Juki Junkies and the TL series. Well, I've watched the TL series before by various different people that I like to watch on YouTube. I noticed most have the 2010, which that's what I was going to get. And then my husband says, well, what's the next one up? It's like, well, it was the 15, but then I just went ahead and went for it and got the 18 because I do want to do some free motion quilting. It's a little difficult on what I have, and I don't want to spend the money on a long arm. I just don't. Okay, so we have everything is ironed down. Now let's bring the corner in, and this is where I am going to get my clips. I do like the clips. So we're going to pull this in on this side. I don't know if it's just because I'm left-handed. I'm really ambidextrous. I can do both ways. And then, so I'm just folding it in that direction. And I'm just going to stick a clip there. Now here, we've got the 45-degree angle going that way. Now we want to pull it down to where we have this nice mitered section, and I like to steam the heck out of it. I want it to really stick. I'm going to put this clip in there in just a second, but it just gives me a nice crisp corner there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with the other corner. So let's just go ahead and flip this up. This is the long side, it looks like. I don't have much room in here. That's okay, you might not either, but it can still work. You can make a quilt no matter what size room you have. I don't care if you have a little closet. You can make it work. Take over the dining room. You have a dining room. Take over the island. Whatever it takes. Okay, so we're getting down here to this other corner. And I'm just going to clip down this way. And I'm going to go ahead and rotate this around. So now I'm down at the next corner, and I'm just going to go ahead and iron this down so I have that 45-degree angle. And I do give it a good press. Okay, so that's what we've got. Now we're just going to bring this down, just so we've got this 90-degree angle here. And even though we've got that seam right there, as you saw, once we hit the iron with it, it's going to stay, and then we're going to clip it down. All right, just like that. Okay, now we can go down this short side and just add a few clips. I'll tell you, I love the clips. I never used them when I did garment sewing, but boy, I use them in quilting. I guess because it's thicker, it's easier to get the layers all together, pinned together, clipped together. All right. If I run out of clips, I'll just stop and reconfigure. Okay, so one thing I wanted to mention here is don't clip this. I made that mistake in the very first project I did, and my corner was really wonky. So just leave, I know it looks weird, but it's gonna all tuck in there with no problem. And we kind of want that stability right there. So we're gonna go ahead and press that down just like we did before. I think it just helps make that miter just a little bit better, a little bit crisper. You've got that corner. All right, now we're going to bring this down. Just like that. Before I clip it, I'm going to press it. All right, now I'm going to clip it. You can pin it if you like. There's a lot of layers there, but I do recommend the clips. Now we're going to come down this side and just iron all of this down. Look at that gold against the red, white, and blue. I was so glad that I waited on the binding and went to Quilt Club and discovered this little beauty trick here. Okay, we're coming down to this other corner. Just going to iron it in place. I'm clipping it about a foot. That's a teeny one. All right, so we're going to come around. We've got this other corner. Get all of our strings out of the way. Do the same thing here. Some people like to come down where they were stitching and do that. My brain doesn't work that way. And if that works for you, great. That's just how your brain works. Mine does not. It's probably because it's partly left-handed, partly right-handed. As a left-hander growing up in my era, they wanted to switch me to right hand. And my mom said, absolutely not. So thanks, Mom. But, since a lot of, we do live in a right-handed world, I do a lot of things right-handed as well. I cannot write right-handed comfortably. I can do it. It's just not my best. All right, there's that crisp edge. I'm going to clip that down. And you can kind of see, if I were to take it to the sewing machine like this, I'll be fighting with it. I do like to have it already crisply just folded over and put together. So even if the clips came out, not a big deal. The fabric knows where to go. This is my last side, folks. And I didn't run out of clips. I had more than I thought. So let's clip that. So we're going to be stitching through some pretty thick areas here. Here's our last corner. And we're just going to go ahead. The thing I forgot to do, oh well, I was going to put a tag in the back and I didn't do it. That's okay. I'm not going to unstitch something just for that. All right, so we have all of this down. I'll just put something in here, I guess, or maybe down here with my embroidery machine. But I have these cute little labels that I thought, oh, that'd be really nice. But oh well. Okay, so now we're ready to take it to the sewing machine. I may switch my foot. I'm not sure yet till I get there. And then we're going to stitch all the way around. And the quilt will be actually done. I will add some machine embroider on that I went ahead and made this on this year. And then I'm going to have a commemorative spot on one of these firecrackers. So let's continue. I did buy this hoping I could use it. It's a bi-level top stitch foot, and I was really hoping to use it. Let's see if it works. It should. Yeah, it should. So here's the paper. Here's the paper on how it works. I'm really hoping this will work. I think what I have to do is there is a notch right here. And I think that's what I run along here. And that goes there. Okay. We're going to give it a go and see if I like this foot. I have all this excess. I'm just going to pile up on the sewing machine. I only work with this amount anyway. So all of this back here, just don't worry about it. Just make sure it's not under where you're stitching. Okay, so it looks like it's going to be 1/8 of an inch from there. This is the bi-level top stitch foot with this particular system. So I do have a faff, however you say it. I don't know. And I think I will just go ahead and back stitch. So this notch right here is what goes along the edge of my binding. I'm just going to take it kind of slow and see. Let me get enough to where I can see underneath of it. Ultimately, it would be nice if the bottom would be in this little stitch in the ditch kind of thing. All right, so, oh, that's going to be nice. I think that's going to work out great. Now, if I wanted to, I could slip it over. Not at this point. I think you have to kind of pick it and then just go with it. All right. I'm going kind of slow because I've got a lot of layers to sew through. This machine tends to skip. That's one reason why I'm upgrading. But since I've been stitching on this the last day or two, it hasn't skipped. So I don't know what the difference is, but I'm glad. Okay, so this is kind of thick right here. So I don't know if you can see that, but I probably would have liked it over just a little bit more. However, I like the back. It's kind of doing kind of the stitch in the ditch. So I'm just going to commit to this seam allowance or stitch width here. It's kind of, I think the dots are what on here, what it's supposed to be. It's what's intended for this particular foot. If I wanted to change it, I would have to unpick all of that. And I don't think that's worth it. I kind of like the way that looks right there. And the back, I think it's great. So let's just go ahead and stitch all the way down. I decided to keep everything very simple. I'm just going to do a 1776 in one firecracker base and then a 2026 in another. I do have a graphic that just says USA that I may put somewhere, but for right now, I'm just going to start with using this very simple program. It's a free program called Embrilliance. Yeah, just Embrilliance. I did purchase some fonts, and so I just kind of want to come down here and do a 1. Let's bring that up a little bit. And let's turn that into a 7. And another 7. And a 6. So just keeping it super simple. I do need to change that to the 6. All right, it's already got my center markings right there. I'm not going to use purple. I am going to use just a white. So for the color, I just want one color. And we'll just do this natural white over here. I don't want to have to switch it all out. Okay, I think I do like the way that ended up. I'm going to make this a DST file. So we will go ahead and say, we're going to save as a working file for right now. We'll just do 1776 final. I want this to be a DST. Depending on what kind of program you have or machine you have, determines the extension. Mine is a DST, so I do know that for a fact. And then we're just going to come in and instead of a 1, I want a 2. Zero. I'll change the color in a bit. 2, 6. Okay, so we can, all we need to do is change the color. For all of this, we just want one color, the natural white. Say okay. And I want to center those. This one doesn't look centered. It is, but it looks a little to the right. So let's go here and center. Apply. There we go. There, it tightened it up. Okay, I am going to try it out on a test before I put it on the actual quilt just to see if I like it. So the next thing, I decided I'm going to use red thread. We'll try that out. So we'll go ahead and hit embroidery, and we want to pick the pattern, and it's on my USB drive. Under my DSD right here. And then, let's see. Okay. I guess I have 2 files. So we'll go ahead and pick that one. Pattern exceeds the hoop. So let's configure. Let's get the hoop, and I want this one. I need the hoop in there, so let's go ahead and install that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put in my sample. I'm not all that concerned where it's going to be since it's just a sample. I did put some spray on there just to hold it down. You could pin it if you want. And so that's configured. That's exactly how I want. So embroidery, let's put our presser foot down and hit ready. Now once we hit ready, we're ready to hit start. Here's the moment of truth. Now the back, it's just a tear away. So I'm just going to tear it away. I'm just going to do one layer at a time. Oh, that did beautifully. And then I'm going to cut off all my little strings. I'm so pleased with this. I can't believe how well it turned out. All right, so let's get that little piece out of there. That'll probably come out in the wash. So I'm going to set that aside. And let's clip our little strings on this side. All right, I'm super pleased with that. Just right here. I thought I might put USA here. Now the next one, the 2026, I may just put over here. It's kind of the center of the quilt, or I could put it down here. I think I will put it over here on this side. So I've got 1776 and I'm going to put 2026 over there. I think I will go ahead and change out the color and do gold. And then I'll decide if I'm going to put the USA on it somewhere. Okay, so we're going to come back and select our new pattern. Go back here. And I don't have to turn it over this time. All right, I'm just going to leave it with the red. That way it'll be the same. Okay, I just want to double check. Yep, that's good. Okay, put that down. Hit config. Everything looks good there. Hit embroidery. Hit ready. And okay, just ready to hit the button. Thanks for staying all the way to the end. I really appreciate it. And next, in part 4, we're going to talk about numbers. We're going to talk about what it takes to make this quilt, the materials, how much it costs, the total cost, and some of the tools that I felt were so invaluable. So you don't want to miss that one. And then you'll have the whole series. So thank you, like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.